So it is early days yet in the planning of Ottawa's new Central Library. The city still has to pick a piece of land. It's not certain if the project's going to be a partnership with Library and Archives Canada, so it looks like it'll be at least the new year before talk begins in earnest about design. But when it does, people might look to Halifax for inspiration. That city opened its new Central Library to the public in 2014 to rave reviews. And this week, the architects are in Ottawa to receive a prestigious award, Governor General's Medal in Architecture. George Cotaras is with Fowler Bauld Mitchell, one of two firms that collaborated on the design of the new Halifax Library. Morten Schmidt is with the other, Schmidt Hammer Lassen, based in Denmark. George and Morten are both with me in studio. Hello there.
Hello. Thank you.
Now, there are going to be listeners out there who have not seen this library in person. George, how do you describe the atmosphere of the place?
Well, maybe I could describe it first by describing its context. It's on Spring Garden Road, the busiest commercial street in eastern Canada. It's anchored at one end by what we call the Monument District with courthouse, cathedral, Lieutenant Governor's residence, and at the other end is the public gardens, the oldest Victorian gardens in British North America. So it's a busy street, it's a busy location, very prime location, and it's also where the orthogonal grid of planning of Halifax is changed. There's a diagonal street, Queen Street, that comes down and intersects at that corner. So that set the stage for some of the architecture in terms of its forms that Morten can talk about a little. But the building itself...
Because it needed to fit in...
No, it didn't need to fit, but it was inspiration, I would call it. Would you call it inspiration, Morten, that non-orthogonal intersection?
Well, absolutely. It's for me the central place in Halifax. It's where the historical heritage axis is crossing, really. So it was a very good suited space for the new library.
And it's sort of visually midpoint between historic Citadel Hill and the harbour. So the building is composed of four large glass blocks set skewed from each other, twisted and shifted and cantilevered. And when you walk inside, you're struck by a 5-story high atrium. Skylight across the whole top is very bright and light. The entire ground floor is public space. There's a cafe. You're allowed to walk around with coffee in the library.
Shocking, yes.
Reading areas and a 300-seat performance space, multi-purpose performance space, which is really one of the gems of that library. And in front of you, going up through the library, are these stairs and bridges zigzagging back and forth, all at different angles, and it's been likened to the Harry Potter stairs at Hogwarts.
Well, talk to me about this, because this is one of... I actually... This is... I'm sure you're sick of people telling you how beautiful this building is, but that idea of interconnectivity fascinates me, and how the different levels connect more. And I'm just wondering if you can talk to me a little bit about why that was so important.
Well, first of all, these stairs, we see them not only as just bringing people from one level to another, but really also a place where people can connect to each other. A library is much more than just a box for collecting books. It's really a place for people to meet, and one way of showing that is where people are in motion, so you can see them and you can meet them on the stairs and on the bridges. So this is part of it.
And if you go up or down these bridges and stairs, you are taken through the entire library, and all the spaces kind of intermingle. It's not distinct from one department or zone to another, and that way you feel it's one place.
It struck me that it seems that you're almost seeing the entire library all at once, while it still seems to maintain privacy, which I thought was a kind of interesting feat that you pulled off.
Sure.
Yeah, there are spaces that are fairly noisy because people are talking, playing on computers, having meetings, but also you can find very quiet reading areas as well. So there's a lot of diversity in the types of spaces in there, depending on what your desire is that particular day.
Now, knowing how the library is going to be used, as you're pointing out, is obviously important and encouraging that kind of interaction. The jury for the Governor General's Medal said, and I'm quoting here, "It commends the process of early user engagement that led to the design." Here in Ottawa, we're very into early user engagement. We don't always follow through with that necessarily, or sometimes the consultation process can derail things. How important was the consultation to the success of this design?
I think it was absolutely key. It was the reason that the library has become so well loved by everybody in the city of Halifax. And we started that process at the very beginning, before we had any design done. The very first consultation, Morten and I were there with representatives from the city and the library, 250 people, and I think they expected to see something, but we had nothing to show them other than our past works between our two firms. But we did it in a format that's unusual for consultation. We did it in a World Cafe format, around tables of 6 or 8 people, and the conversations didn't get bigger than a group of 6 or 8 people. And we would ask big questions. Some of the very first questions at that meeting that we asked was, how will your central library transform our city and your life?
That is a big question.
Right?
That's a big question.
Well, actually, we confronted the public in a way we would have done if it was a professional client that was in front of us. And the public are not stupid, so they responded very cleverly to what we presented them for. And then in the next series of consultations, we had adapted the scheme to what they had asked for, so they could follow the whole route through. And I think that has been part of the great success.
One of the stumbling blocks often is a visionary design comes across after public consultation, understanding the view that gets presented, checkmarked. Somehow it moves on to the next phase, and what one ends up with at the end is not the visionary design that you started with. Things fall to the wayside. It seems like you've managed to stay true to a pretty visionary vision, for lack of a better term. Were there things that you had to compromise on or let go?
Well, but architecture is much more than just a concept. Lots of things like the costing of it goes into it. There's a lot of
constructability issues.
Sure.
Lots of stuff. So, and we informed the public of that as well, and set up the question: we don't have money for this here. Would you rather go for this or this or that? And so. Yeah, it was quite sensible.
But what we showed them at the end of the design process, Alan, is what they got.
One of the possibilities in Ottawa right now is a collaboration between the Federal National Library and Archives and the Municipal Library. Morten, what do you think of that idea?
I think actually it's a great opportunity you've got here. It's not often seen around, but here you've got a fantastic opportunity of making an interface with these two very different institutions, and it is
and the public,
and I think it's time. Modern times is they want to open up the more introvert institutions like a National Archive is. So yeah.
All right. Well, people will have a chance to take a closer look at this design. George Cotaras is an architect with Fowler Bauld and Mitchell in Halifax. Morten Schmidt with Schmidt Hammer Lassen in Denmark. They worked together to create the Halifax Central Library, which has been awarded the Governor General's Medal in Architecture. That award is being presented tomorrow. But tonight, you can hear architects of all the winning buildings talking about their projects. The event is at 6 at the Canadian Museum of History in Gatineau. Admission is free. Both of you, congratulations and thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming in.